What is up, everybody? Happy Monday. This is Two Lock Sports. It's Monday. It's December 28th. We got ourselves a nice little NBA slate here, and to kind of kick off this week, this holiday week, decided to do a little free picks and pivots video. With the NBA season kicking off now, a lot of people changing their mindset from NFL over to the NBA. And there's a lot of people, and I've seen it kind of day in, day out here as the seasons come up. In our Win Daily Discord, a lot of people that are new to NBA trying to understand a little bit more about, how to build and what to do. So thought this would be a good slate. It's a manageable slate, only 5 games, to kind of give you an idea of how we do things here at Win Daily. So we're going to jump right in. Before we do, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. I hope everybody is staying safe, staying healthy. It's a crazy, crazy time. But hopefully you got to enjoy some time with your family, with your friends, and we'll wrap up this 2020, which I know has been very challenging for a lot of folks. I think that as we go into 2021, hopefully things get a lot better for a lot of people. But very appreciative of the health that I have. Got to spend good time with my family, with my wife and my kids, While it hasn't all been good, there's been a lot of good things. And one of the things I'll take away from 2020 is being able to join this team here at Win Daily. Frankly, had the pandemic not happened, probably never even would have crossed paths with Jason and had the opportunity to join what I think is one of the best fantasy sports communities out there. And I'm super, super excited to see where we're going here now in 2021. So before we jump into a lineup building, what I want to do today is to take my article. If you go out, you follow me on Twitter at Two Lock Sports, go out and we can read Picks and Pivots today, which is free. We are keeping all of our content here at Win Daily free through the end of 2020. If you have not joined yet, I implore you to go out. If you go to Win Daily's site and you go right at the top, see right up there, right on the banner, can't miss it. You can get our offer, which is going to be good until the end of this week. You can get 7 months of Win Daily for $150 total. That's $21 a month. Listen, everybody's got their promos going now, but I will tell you this, having been in this industry for a long time, there is not a site with a better deal than this. This is every single sport you could ask for with Win Daily, with our access to our Discord, one-on-one coaching from our experts, and we have it all. You look around the industry, you're not even getting $150 for one sport from some of these other sites. So please take advantage of this. We have an unbelievable team here, people that play at all levels. We've got big bankroll players, low bankroll players, cash game focused guys, GPP focused guys, and all of those experts are in our chat, and we're talking and we're giving one-on-one coaching, and you see it every day. We've gotten people in our Discord every day are thanking us and, coming and talking to us about how much they have changed in the last week. The profit that they're getting and the process that they're anchoring to is just totally different than anything that they've had before. So, if you go out to our site today, listen, here's all of our stuff right here, right at the top. We have 3 articles today breaking down this NBA slate, and this is what you're going to get every single day. We've got Ghost Gems, which is a GPP-focused article. You've got Picks and Pivots, my article, which is a strategy-based article, and then Adam's Cash Game Breakdown, which is, if you guys have known Adam, like I have for the past 5 years, nobody does a more thorough job in their articles than Adam. So these are great starting points. They're all free today. So if you, again, go to my Twitter, Two Lock Sports, jump out, start reading. So what I want to do is when we talk about this, if you go to our projections model, and our projections model is just been bonkers hot. My boy Ghost has been working on this and back testing it over 2 years worth of data. And I'm telling you right now, guys, you're not going to find a model that's been hotter than his to start the season. A lot of plays that have been in his model I've been using personally. 2 nights ago, had my best night so far of the season. With a huge wins on Saturday, really on a slate that was very similar to kind of what we're seeing tonight. So what I want to do is go back, and before we go into the plays, talk a little bit about this slate and what we see. And what's interesting about this slate is for a 5-gamer, it's got a little bit of everything. You've got the superstar power across the slate, and you see it here. When you look at the names that are here, with Harden, Lillard, AD, LeBron, Joker, you got Trae Young, Kyrie and Durant, Kyrie and Durant and John Moran. I mean, that to me, there are so many paths that you can go at the top of this. And what's interesting too is we've got so much injury news, some that we know already and some that we're waiting on, that is going to bring us a ton of value. And when that happens, we go stars and scrubs. It's been the process that we've been going through here, since the start of the season, because the pricing is soft, guys. So take advantage of it. What you're seeing every single day in the projections model is you're getting 10 to 15, upwards of 20 guys that are projected for 6x value. And when you get that many guys that are projected to, really crush their value, and 6x multipliers for those who are kind of new, if you've got 50K of a salary, right, in DraftKings, if you go 6x, that means you're getting 300 DraftKings points as your score. And depending on the size slate, that could be good enough for a GPP takedown. It's certainly good enough most nights, minimally for cashing. But anytime you have that much value, what it's telling you is there's mispricing across the slate. And it then gives you so many opportunities to get multiple stars in. And I think that's exactly what we need to do tonight. So first and foremost, the number one play on the slate, it's not close. Don't get cute. Just click the button. James Harden is on this slate without John Wall, without Boogie Cousins, without Eric Gordon. Guys, we just saw this. I mean, I wrote about this in my article, but you look at what he did the other night, 79 DK points, 22 field goal attempts. He had nearly 35% usage in that game. We have so much data with Harden that when he's solo, when he doesn't have that secondary star next to him, it was Westbrook last year, right? When he doesn't have that, he just goes bonkers. He's all of their offense. So while it might seem like a no-brainer, and I know it's, I'm starting off like this and you're probably nodding along going, yeah, obviously, Brian, I'm going to play Harden. But guys, people don't always do it. Saturday night was the perfect example. He was only 60%. And now you might sit there and go, well, wait a second, 60% is high. No, in tournaments, that means 40% of people were dead in the water, had no chance. It was over. He went off. You had no other path to get to cashing. Don't make that mistake. Just play him. The slate is dictating there is so much value. Just play him. I don't want guys that are in our Discord. We've been telling you guys, we told you this on Saturday. You're going to hear the same message from us today. Do not fade him. Just play him. Okay. So he's step one. Now, where do you go from a next step from a stars perspective? Now, while we don't have the news quite yet, the expectation is that Kevin Durant's going to sit today. And right before I came online, we got the news that Spencer Dinwiddie, unfortunately, has an ACL tear. It sounds like his season is done. As a Nets fan, that's a bummer. I've loved watching what Dinwiddie's become. And this team is just super fun to watch. But forget about the season-long component of it and the fan component of it. All you care about in DFS is tonight. No Dinwiddie for sure, and likely no Durant. Okay, so then once again, we're going to go right back here, and we are going to click in Kyrie Irving. Kyrie last year, when you had Dinwiddie off the court, and you didn't have that secondary star, there was no Durant last year. When Kyrie was in a similar role last year, he put up over 50 DK points per 36 minutes. He was 35% plus usage. He's in a massive pace matchup here with Memphis. Again, where James Harden is click number one, Kyrie is click number two for me on this slate. Now, click number three is interesting. It's not quite a star, but I think it's somebody that I want to just bring in because I don't think the price has come up to a level in which we can really move off of him, and that's Christian Wood. And we saw this again. Got same story that you had with Harden, and Christian Wood was under 6K the other day, and he was like 80% owned. But again, even this price increase, I mean, you're talking about a guy who had about 30% usage in that game, shot the ball 22 times, put up 54 DK points. Like, there's still profit on this price, guys. So as long as he's there, I think he becomes kind of click number three. But not necessarily depending on how the news breaks. But this is kind of the third guy. that I'm putting in. I know in talking with our team today with Ghost and with Adam, this 3-man core has kind of been the start of every one of our builds. And so, I think for me, this is where I'm going to start and what we're kind of coaching our people to start with today. I see a question in the chat, do these plays on FanDuel as well? Yes, guys, I know that my article, I always mention DraftKings pricing. The logic applies to both sites. So if you're playing on FanDuel, playing on DraftKings, while the pricing might be different, the logic absolutely holds for both. This becomes kind of your starting point, stars and scrubs. It's always easier to do on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. DraftKings is usually a little bit harder to make it work. So, if you can do it on DraftKings, almost always you can apply it, retroactively to FanDuel. The question then becomes, who's your fourth guy? And I think there's a variety of ways that you can go with this. So I mentioned this in my article, but, sticking with the concept of stars kind of riding solo today, the question here is whether or not we see either Anthony Davis or LeBron James sit for the Lakers. AD was out yesterday, so it was LeBron. He only really played, I think it was like 24 minutes, if I remember correctly. That game got out of hand, 26 minutes. Game was out of hand. He got banged up in the game. There's talk now that he might actually not play today either. Frank Vogel was a little bit non-committal after the game around, well, if he says he can play, he'll play. So listen, guys, we're going to see. The Lakers, this is going to be a story all year long. When they're healthy and you have LeBron and AD together, it's very rare that I'm going to want to pay the premium for them when they're sharing the court. It's a totally different story, however, when one of them's out. If you go to picks and pivots, I broke down the statistics. The usage jumps, the fantasy points per minute jumps. You're talking about guys who are 50 plus DK point locks when they get into these scenarios with 35% plus usage rates. This is superstar stuff. It's what you pay for. There's a reason that you go do it. Now, if they are both in, I probably play neither. If one of the two is out, I think they become the next guy in, right? And I mentioned this in my article, but let's just say you put in AD. Guys, it's doable, right? You can get these 3 big stars with Christian Wood, and you still have 3K per player on DK, and it's doable. I've been messing with it all morning. I'm telling you it's doable. Now, we don't have all the value quite yet. You're going to need to wait a little bit on that, but this is kind of the framework. Now, if both Lakers guys are in, I think there is an interesting debate on where you'd go. I think for me, there's kind of 2 guys that I'm looking at. I'm going to give you the 3 names that we've talked about today a little bit in Discord, but you got Jokic, you've got Trae Young, and you've got Ja Moran. Personally, I think I'm probably going to go one of 2 places. I think first would be potentially working in Joker and thinking about kind of a 2v1 little game stack where you got Harden, Wood, and you bring it back with Joker. The other option, I think, is if we don't get the true 3K punt value, right? Because we talked about it. Like even if you put in Joker, you're talking about 3.2K. Now you might get a couple guys in this. We mentioned a few, Torian Prince, other guys. We'll have to see how that breaks. If this path works and you have multiple, and you're going to need multiple, right? You need 4 more spots of this 3K value, this build works. If that 3K value doesn't really open up and we need to tick down just a little bit, the guy that I would go with here is Ja Morant. And I think that, if you were to go this route, and this is kind of, I think, the build that is a little bit easier to do at first glance because you don't quite have as much 3K value. But, in a pace-up matchup where that you get, you kind of get that 1v1 with Kyrie and John, and it'll be up and down. I think he makes for a really strong 4th guy in. And by dropping down to him, you can see the average remaining per player, is almost 3.6K. And there's a lot of guys in this range. So how do I then build from here? Listen, I'm recording this. It's not even noon Eastern Standard Time. You've got 7+ hours until the game starts. The goal isn't here to lock in on a specific players, necessarily, and have a build locked and loaded. We need to wait on news. Granted, now the good part about this slate, all of the value that we're really looking for, at least at first glance, is in Brooklyn and it's in Detroit. And those are the first two games of the night. So thankfully, we'll have the news. Hopefully, it's NBA DFS, so we know that doesn't always apply. But go in and, I think these are the two games that we're going to have to look at first. So where do I go next? We're talking about building a lineup. How do I approach the next step? Next thing for me is I'll go into our projections model, right? And you can see here, this is set for DraftKings. If you go up top, you can toggle very easily, right, between DraftKings and FanDuel. And if you look at kind of how this slate is setting up, I've got it sorted right now. I just went high to low right here on the right side by value. Now, you look at this slate and you start to see the value. Now, I mentioned Detroit. The Detroit value is popping, and it's popping, pretty significantly. You've got, Josh Jackson, Mason Plumlee, and DeLon Wright all projected really highly, and all of them right, basically 6x and up. So, one of the things that you can do is, kind of mix it, is to mix and match a little bit here. And so I'll go back in here, and I'm going to not quite yet put in Wood and Moran. I'm going to start with Irving, and I'm going to start with Harden, because to me, this is where every lineup should start. So if I were to go up to Detroit as an example, right, and now we're just going to build in with the guys that the model says, right? We're going to start with Josh Jackson, Mason Plumlee, and DeLon Wright. And we're just going to see kind of what it leads us to. So you put in DeLon Wright, Plumlee is at center, and who was the third guy? Josh Jackson. There it is. So put him at small forward. That way you kind of, maybe I glanced over this quickly, but when you're building these things, try and build from the top down. So build in the specific positions first, so you leave yourself more flexibility as you get to guard, forward, and utility. It just makes your build a lot easier. So now, if you've done this build, you've kind of locked in the first three Detroit players, then you can go back and say, all right, now what do I want to do? Do I want to go back and, if you go with this route, you realistically cannot put in AD, right? You're not going to be able, by default, you're not going to be able to put in LeBron or Joker. So it probably leaves you one of two places. You can put in Moran and run him, or you can go in and run Mr. Wood, either of them at utility, right? And you get about 4K per player. Let's just put in Wood as an example, because he was kind of the third guy that I locked in. If we go back and we look at this build now, the next place that I would look at is Brooklyn. And right now, if you look at the model, you see Kyrie on here, you see Joe Harris. The model still has Durant in here, because until he gets ruled out, we really don't adjust for it. We've got to keep him in. Once the model adjusts for him, I think this is where you'll see. And again, it's why we don't build lineups and lock in first thing in the morning, because once this changes, the Brooklyn value is going to pop just like the Detroit value is popping already. We have the Detroit news. We know Rose is out. We know Blake Griffin's out. We don't have the Brooklyn news yet, which is why you haven't seen this kind of adjust. So if you go back in here, right, again, looking at the value, I'm locking in the top three values, and then Christian Wood, once again, is popping still. I said it before, there's a lot of profit left, so there's still value here, okay? So you put in Christian Wood, and now what do you got? I think the next guy that I would look at, I know the model's not quite there on it yet, but I think Taurean Prince is going to be a very logical punt play today. If you look at Brooklyn's rotations, Taurean Prince has been the direct sub for Kevin Durant in every single game. So it seems logical that if Durant were to sit, they would slide in Taurean Prince. Listen, it's not like you're looking at a guy here that's going to drop 40 or 50 DK points, just not super likely. But you're talking about a guy in a pace-up spot with the minute security. I mean, all he has to do is get you to 20 DK points, and he's smashing. And I think there's absolutely the path for that. And then what it does is it really opens it up. And now you're looking at a build where you have 5K left for that last slot. And there's a lot of things that you can do, right? If you don't want, if you don't like any of these options, like if you're not super high on these, and frankly, I'm not really looking at any of these going, yeah, these are guys I absolutely want. So usually what I'll do then is I'll say, all right, well, if I don't like the builds with Christian Wood, I'm going to go back in. I'm going to slide in Morant, and now I have 3,900 for a forward. And, when you get down here, there's actually some very interesting options. You've got the Houston value once again, with Sterling Brown. You've got David Nwaba, who started last game. there's a couple other names here that I think, we could really look at. Cam Reddish, who is back and starting. You look at his role. Played 32 minutes last game against Memphis, and while the stat line isn't jumping off the page, if you're telling me that I can get 30 minutes at a sub 4K price, in a game that I think the last I checked, this is like a 237, 238 total. I mean, it's a great way to get cheap exposure to it. So, just for the sake of this build, let's throw that in, right? So now you kind of look at what this build is telling you, and it's just, I hate to say it was easy, but where in here do you really feel like that you had to compromise? You got the 2 stars that you plan to build around with Irving and with Harden, right? You were planning to do that all along. Moran was the kind of that third guy in. We decided to pay up a little bit. The Detroit value right now is still popping as value. It's not 3K, but these guys are 4 or 5K with guys like Jackson and DeLon Wright and Plumlee. So this is how I like to build. I really will start, and I will tell you right now, today, this is how every single build of mine will go. It's going to start with these 2 guys, and then I'm going to go from there. Now, if we get the situation right now, you've got the Detroit value, right? If we get another situation here with Brooklyn, and I will check and see, there has been no news quite yet on the Nets. So now, if we go back, and we talked about this before, if we look back at what I had started before, go with Christian Wood, right? And then let's go in with the scenario here. We're just going to put in AD. And I'm picking AD over LeBron because AD is $100 more than LeBron. So when you get into builds like this, one of the reasons I always go with the higher price guy is if I can find a build I like with the higher price guy, let's say that AD sits and that LeBron plays. Well, it's very easy for me to just say, okay, if I already have a build where it worked with AD, I know that I have a build with LeBron. Versus vice versa, if I have a build with LeBron that works and fits perfectly, and then I need to find that other $100 later, it makes it harder. So just whenever you're doing builds like this, think through stuff like that. If the logical 1v1 pivot, the pricing is similar enough to make it work. But it's definitely a process that I think you need to kind of get yourself into, where you start higher and then work backwards. So in this build, right, and this is what I was kind of outlining in picks and pivots, was, there's a path to do this. And again, I think if you're going with this and you're at that 3.1 range, I mean, the very first guy that I'm going to put in is Taurean Prince. I did mention this in my article, but if you guys are lazy and you don't want to read, and I understand it, I did mention, if you look at the game flow last game, TLC actually was the one who got all the fourth quarter run with the starters. So he was alongside Allen, Kyrie, Durant, and Joe Harris. So it'd be, if, for example, if Taurean Prince were to get the start in Durant's place, it is possible, right, that TLC could kind of get that run that, we saw, what's his face? Dinwiddie get, previously. So if we go here, where did he go? All right, so here you go. So now in this build, you're getting 2 of the Brooklyn punt plays, and giving yourself an idea of, how you can kind of start to see where this build could work. Brooklyn, I really want to wait and see what their lineup looks like, because I have a feeling that while everyone is thinking that, that maybe just LeVert moves into the starting lineup, I do wonder if they're going to leave LeVert in that 6-man role. And if they do, that means that, again, Dinwiddie and Durant, that'd be 2 starters that they have to replace. So you're not just looking at Durant's logical replacement and Prince. You could also be looking at who are they going to run alongside Kyrie in the backcourt. And if last game was any indication, it's TLC. Again, now you're looking at this bill going, wow, I still have 3, I'm still working within this 3.1K range. So, now where else would you go? It gets a little again, if you look at the model here, and I'm going to refresh it. So if you look at our model, and I wanted to show you guys this because we get a lot of questions like, is the model updated? Is the model updated? So right up top, it says it was last updated, and my man Ghost updated it 3 minutes ago because he's the best. So, if you look at this, it doesn't look like a lot. The Detroit value is still certainly the high end here. It looks like there's not a ton of 3K options. So I don't think this path is quite there yet. There are options. So you do have, let's see, so you got Muscala, you got Tyus Jones. So and those guys, while we might be able to argue the path for 5x kind of 6x value, those are guys to me where when you start getting in that range, and if you look at this build right now, Prince and TLC, for argument's sake, could both be playing starters minutes tonight. Those are safer paths. But now when you get into this where you're looking in this range and you're going, all right, well, I can play Tyus Jones, I can play Wes Matthews. Don't ever play Wes Matthews. But when you're starting to look in this range and you're looking for guys who can get you there, that's usually where I say, okay, this isn't going to work. So let's say nothing else comes up. I don't know that this build now works, right? Well, I can make the argument for Prince and TLC. If that's the only value we get in that range, I don't think we can do it. So now maybe the answer is you don't play Anthony Davis, right? And maybe this is back where we were talking before, where you go back to Moran, right? And now you're in this 4K range. And this 4K range is much more palatable because I think if you go back to Detroit, again, we don't have this news quite yet. But with Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose out, the one guy we didn't talk about right here, my boy, Siku. If he gets the start, he's kind of a multi-category contributor. What I like too, he's got multi-position eligibility on DraftKings. So you can lock him in. Again, I don't want him at utility. Don't make those mistakes. You want to put him in at the power forward so that way you get the maximum amount of options. So in this build, you've got a utility spot with 47 open. You can go, there's actually some decent options here. You can go to DeLon Wright, who we talked about before. You got Bogdanovich, you got Ingles, you got Joe Harris. There's actually a lot to like in this build. I actually really like this build. So, you could go with something like this, just as an option. Again, it's the same kind of concept. I think, I started out talking about the Lakers guys, but listen, while I love the Lakers guys, Kyrie and Harden are my priorities. If there's enough 3K punt value, I will make the Lakers guys work. But if that value does not come in and we need to live in the 4K range, then that really means to me, I'm probably dropping down from a Laker to Ja and using a build similar to this. So I've seen a bunch of questions come in, so I want to kind of answer them. So Andrew, is this for cash, GPP, or both? I am so I talked a little bit about this before, but our team here at Win Daily, we got guys that kind of cover everything and have different specialties. Personally, I am a GPP player only. I don't play cash. I play GPPs only, and I play single entries only. I build one lineup a night. I build it by hand. You guys are watching now. This is how I build my lineups. I use the tools, I use the content, I use our projections, I use our chat to kick ideas around, but ultimately I'm building it by hand. So for me, this is a GPP type build. I would argue tonight that the GPP and the cash game are not all that different. And, I think Adam is the guy, if you read his cash game breakdown, but the fact that he started out his day basically saying it's Harden, and it's Kyrie, and it's Wood, and then the fourth guy is TBD, he's basically telling you he's seeing the cash games the same way that I'm seeing the GPP, so they're not all that different. Does the stars and scrub mentality change for single entry? No, it doesn't. And because, in these instances, I am going to use stars and scrubs in single entry because my perspective is I'm trying to build one that I want to have a high floor, with some of these values, but I also, I'm looking for ways to try and be a little bit different. And if you go back to Saturday as an example, right? Everybody all day long was kind of, if you looked at the models and you looked across the industry, Sterling Brown was kind of like the cheap, easy value that everyone was using. After lock, they said that he was going to come off the bench. David Nwaba was going to end up starting. but people were kind of locked into him already, and they didn't really move off. And there was other ways you can go. My man Ghost had, and I'm going to bring up the projections once again because he's here again. Jason Tate. Adam mentioned this in his article, and it cracked me up. Literally, when this came up on Saturday, I'm like, wait a second, who's Jason Tate and why is he popping? He was one of our highest projected value plays, and he absolutely was fantastic. So I want to go to him real quick because these are the kind of ways that you can, even in like a single entry, to your point, I forget who asked it. Scroll up here and just make sure I got it right. Ron. So Ron asked this question. So even in single entry, it could just be something as slight as a pivot of these values. If you have, say, 10 guys that are in this 3K range that you can use, maybe it's the simplest move of pivoting off of one of them and moving to a lower owned guy, and that's how you differentiate within the same build. So Jason Tate was kind of that guy, right? Everyone was playing Sterling Brown, right? But then you saw Jason Tate. I mean, I will tell you right now, there is no model in the industry that had Jason Tate popping in value other than ours. And I give Ghost all the credit in the world because he was all over this. Dude played 37 minutes and got you 23 points at 3K. So, he went 7x value, and this was nobody was playing him. Everyone played Sterling Brown. You could get Jason Tate for 5% ownership. These are the ways that you can start to pivot in those little ways in single entry that make a massive, massive difference. Let's see. What other questions we got here? So this is a good point from KJ. You want to go contrarian. You can still go stars and scrubs, but you need to wait for the injury news. I mean, that is the key. Waiting for the injury news here. And this is a very easy way for you to kind of see, like, I'm not locking in necessarily. I'm not starting my day locked in on Torian Prince and TLC. I'm just giving you options early in the day. The projections kind of help you walk through that as the day goes on. Nick saying, I love Moran in the big four. I agree with you. I think Moran makes a lot of sense here as a correlation play with Kyrie, assuming that game goes up and down and it goes fast. Zach, hey everyone, joined the Discord yesterday and getting a feel before I buy gold, but I went positive yesterday. Thanks so far. It's great to hear, man. This is why we do it. If you look at this team here at Win Daily, we all have full-time jobs and full-time lives outside of DFS. So, we're doing this for fun, and we do it because we love it. And we love to see, when people here are coming and sharing those screenshots and talking about how they're making money. It's just, you absolutely love to see it. So hopefully that this was helpful, guys. As you go through, please come and check out all of our stuff at Win Daily Sports. If this video was helpful, come in our Discord. We have a 7-day free trial. You can join Discord for free. Come in and talk to us. We'd love to get feedback from you guys. Reach out to me on Twitter at 2LockSports. If these videos are helpful, let me know. We can do more of these. A lot of times I write the article. I think I have a very clear indication of what I'm trying to portray, which is exactly what you see on my screen right now. A very clear idea in my head, but it doesn't always necessarily translate. And then people will send me lineups, and it might not have Kyrie or it might not have Harden in it. And they're like, what do you think? I'm like, guys, I'm not doing any lineup without those two guys today. So, hopefully this is a different way to look at it, and makes it a little bit easier for you guys as you start to check it out. Ben, thank you. No joke, you guys are probably the most resourceful and helpful DFS content providers out there, and I appreciate that wholeheartedly. This team puts in a lot of work, and it is a lot of fun to do. So head on over to Win Daily Sports. Grab your free Discord trial. Check out all 3 free articles today. Picks and pivots, our GPP gems from my boy Ghost, cash game breakdown from Adam. Join us and check this out, guys. I showed it to you before. If you missed it at the beginning of the show, you head right to the Win Daily page right up top. Where'd I go? There we go. Right up top, $150 for the next 7 months, $21 a month. You're just not getting in, a better deal. So, Nick, I see if I've put a lot of money into other DFS sites. Yeah, we all have. We hear that a lot here. And I think come and check us out. Try out the content. It's free. We're going to keep it free through the rest of this week so you guys can get an idea before you make a decision, before you commit. But I'm telling you, once you come in and you see what you're going to get here, you're not going to want to go anywhere. So let's crush it again tonight. Thank you guys all for joining. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. If I don't see you, Happy New Year. Get here soon, 2021. Peace out, kids.